G'day guys, and welcome to another YouTube lesson. Today we're going to take a look at our fourth business function and our last topic of the Year 12 HSC course, marketing. Now we're going to look at the syllabus today, and you should already know now there are two main parts to the syllabus that we see throughout the prelim and HSC course. We need to make sure that we explicitly, as teachers and you as students, understand the students learn about. That's the stuff that the textbooks tend to delve into. What the textbooks don't look at so well is the students learn to. The students learn to is the second part of the syllabus, and that is where students get taught about, the students learn about, and at the end of the topic, you should be able to do it. That's why it's called the students learn to. So we'll start with that one first off, the students learn to. Now there are six things that you need to understand, 6 syllabus dot points from the students learn to part of marketing. Now these are not always HSC questions, but I don't know, about a third of the time they seem to pop up in the HSC. So I would tell you to make sure you understand what each of these syllabus dot points mean. Try and phrase them as a question and make sure that you understand what they are and how you can answer them if they're a short answer or if they're an essay style question. If you don't get it, come and see me or ask me on Slack. Okay, the first of the student learn to dot points is explain why goods and or services are both central to marketing and operations. That's an interdependence question. Right, and this is where I talk about you need to understand the students learn about. That's the interdependence part of marketing and operations. And it's been phrased that at the end of the unit of work, you as a student should be able to do this. Right, the second students learn to question. Examine, which means inquire into. Make sure you're understanding your directive terms big time. Examine why ethical behaviour and government regulation are important in marketing. All right, the third students learn to dot point. Assess why a mix of promotional strategies is important in the marketing of goods and services. We talk about the promotional mix. That means the range of different promotional strategies, not just advertising, but relationship marketing, publicity, word of mouth, etc., etc. Why is that important? All right, the fourth students learn to evaluate the pros and the cons and user criteria, evaluate the marketing strategies for a good or service. Right, the second last students learn to dot point. Analyze a marketing plan for a business. So you need to understand that the processes is that marketing plan. You will have been explicitly, which means in detail, be taught the processes and that it is the marketing plan. So you need to analyze a marketing plan for a particular business. Qantas, Crumpler, Macca's, iPhone, etc., Apple, and so on. Last one for the students learn to. Explain how globalization has affected marketing management. So basically, how is globalization as an influence, how has it impacted upon marketing and the greater business as well? All right, now as I said, make sure you understand, you yourself, this is your onus, it's up to you. Make sure you understand what each of those are. Because either way, us as teachers, me, head teacher, still get paid $118,000 a year plus on costs, whether you pass or not. We want you to do well, but it's your onus to make sure you sit down, you look at those 6 dot points, and you make sure you understand them. If you don't, come and see me. I'll explain it to you. All right, now this is the stuff of the textbook the students learn about. There are, as always, except for HR, how many different parts for a business function? How many sections do we look at? If you said 4, well done. HR, for some reason, has a 5th one, the effectiveness of HR management. In theory, they should all have the effectiveness, I think, but they make up the syllabus. So you make sure you understand what are the 4 different parts, subtopics, the sections of marketing. The first one is the role of marketing. Its job, what is it there to do? The second subtopic topic, subsection of marketing is influences on marketing. How is marketing impacted? So that's the theme that runs through all of those syllabus dot points. How they influenced, impacted, and so on. The second last of the subtopics, the subsections, is marketing processes. Remember, a process is a set of steps that operations, or in this instance, the marketing team, go through these set of steps, procedures, that they go through in their day-to-day job. And the last one, I don't want to say the most important, because kids tend to just study strategies. You need to study every part of the syllabus, including the previous ones we mentioned, the students learn too, but are the strategies. So you need to understand what promotion is, or what price is, product, global marketing is. You've got to define them, but you also need to understand how they can be used as effective strategies and use your case studies to be able to demonstrate your knowledge. So how is the use of place, which is distribution? How is that an effective strategy? How has Qantas implemented that well or not? So to recap, students learn about 4 parts for marketing. First one, you tell me. Role of marketing. Tick. Good. Next part. Influence of marketing. Sweet. Well done. It's the third part of marketing. Marketing processes. Excellent if you said that. And the final part of marketing is the strategies. Well done. Now, I think it's important to mention before we go through the students learn about a criteria. For the most part, you need to have a criteria when you're assessing or evaluating how good or bad a business has been. In terms of HR, we have the effectiveness criteria. Operations, you could use the performance objectives to evaluate a business. In terms of finance, 5 financial objectives: profitability, growth, efficiency, etc., etc. Marketing doesn't have anything specific from the syllabus that you could use. They should all have an effectiveness criteria, like HR does, but marketing doesn't so much. So what things do we want a business to be able to achieve in relation to its marketing objectives and outcomes? We're talking about greater brand awareness, better positioning in the mind of the consumer. Think cola. What brand comes to mind? 99% of the time, students would say Coke. Apart from that, they'd say Pepsi. So it's positioned well in the mind of the consumer. They also want to make sure that we can increase sales, profits, and have greater market share. These are the objectives. These are the things that, with the marketing strategies that are being implemented, a business wants to achieve. All right, let's get to it. Role of marketing. There's 4 parts to role of marketing. The strategic role of marketing goods and services. Strategic is a time frame. It is in the long term, 3 or more years. Should know that by now. We've been looking at it with the other business function. There's the operational time frame of marketing too. Not to be confused with the topic operations, but that's the short term. The operational time frame is the short term, the day-to-day stuff that the marketing team does. Then we've got the tactical time frame. That's the 1 to 3 years and anywhere in between. All right, that's a tactical objective or time frame that marketing looks at. But we're looking in particular at this long-term role of marketing goods and services. What is the business and the marketing function in the long term? What do they wish to achieve? And we'll delve into that in the next lesson. As always, by now, you can probably guess the next dot point. If you can't, there's some serious issues, and I think it might be time to reassess whether you stick with business. It's the interdependence with other key business functions. There are 4 business functions: operations, HR, finance, and the marketing. How do these 4 work with each other? How do they coordinate in the Year 11 course? How do they coordinate these key business functions? How they gel together? They're reliant upon each other. Then we take a look, still under the role of marketing, at the production, selling, and marketing approaches, all in that time frame. Production's super old school. You make a good product, it sells itself. Then we have in the 60s and so on, the 50s, 60s, 70s, this selling approach to marketing, whereby you make a product, that itself won't sell the product. You need mass marketing, advertising, to essentially sell that product to the consumer. The more recent approach to marketing, not surprisingly, is called the marketing approach. And it's flipping that selling approach on its head. It's having customization, much greater market research, and a good interdependence with operations, where marketing tells operations what it wants to see in its products, and the campaign is made first almost, and that information is conveyed to operations, and the product is made around that, rather than operations under the selling approach making the product first and then just flogging it, selling it to the mass market. Right, then we take a look at the types of market, and there's two parts to that. Firstly, we have the resource, industrial, intermediate, and consumer markets. That's one type of market, one section of that. And it's kind of totally different to a degree. You have the mass versus the niche markets, and we'll be looking at those. All right, moving on from the role of marketing, we address the impacts, the influences, the effects that marketing have, what impacts marketing in the business. Now, we've got three main parts to influences of marketing, and this is all under students learn about. We have factors influencing customer choice. Now, it seems to be a hell of a lot of these, but there are four different things, factors that impact, that influences the choice that customers will make. Always seems to be in four often. We've got psychological, socio-cultural, economic, and government impacts and influences on customer choice. And we'll delve into those in a few lessons' time. Now, the second main influence of marketing, the consumer laws. The laws that consumers and businesses need to adhere to, need to comply with and follow. And in particular, we address deceptive and misleading advertising. We've got price discrimination, implied conditions, things set out by statute law and common law, court-made decisions. And we look at the concept of warranties as well, and why businesses need to adhere to, comply and follow the law. One, there's financial penalties, potentially prosecution if they don't, although I don't think that ever really happens, unfortunately. And there's also poor reputation and branding and a decline in position in the market if businesses don't comply with the law. Now, the last influence of marketing are the ethical impacts. These are truth and accuracy and good taste in advertising. Another ethical influence, product that may damage health and how businesses deal with this. Looking at engaging in fair competition. And the last part of the ethical influences is sugging. It's an ethical influence. Kids often think it's a legal one. You're legally allowed to use sugging, but it's often not wise ethically, morally. It's not a good thing to use. And also it has a negative impact on a business's brand in the medium to long term if they do. So it's not a wise thing to do in the long term. In the short term, it might give financial gain, might improve market share, profit slightly, but medium to long term, that tactical and strategic, not the best. Well, we're getting there. We're looking at the second last topic of marketing, which is the processes, the set of steps that the marketing team go through in their day-to-day job. There are 6 main steps, processes, procedures that marketing will go through. This sets up the marketing plan. So if you're formulating, putting together a marketing plan, which you should be in your job, then you'll follow these 6 particular steps. And that's why we've got things like strategies in there, because as part of a marketing plan, you need to develop marketing strategies, and then you also need to implement, monitor, and control the marketing plan you've put in place and revise that if it's not working well. So that's why that's all under the marketing processes, why it's all part of the marketing plan. All right, the first marketing process is a situational analysis, the old situ analysis represent. Now, in terms of a situational analysis, there's 2 things, 2 parts that make up the situational analysis. You have the SWOT analysis and a product or business life cycle. All right, now in terms of a product / business life cycle, we're not talking about the economic cycle. All right, I'll start with SWOT analysis first and then get on to the PLC or the business life cycle. SWOT analysis looks at those strengths and weaknesses. That's the internal things that a business has a lot of control over, and the opportunities and threats, the external things that will impact upon a business. And in terms of the situational analysis, it's there to see how well a business is traveling, is tracking. In terms of a product life cycle or business life cycle, that's the establishment, the growth, the maturity, and that post-maturity with the renewal, steady state, or decline. Again, not to be confused with the economic cycle. And both of those are part of the situational analysis. They give you a snapshot at how the business is traveling at the business's situation and seeing where they're at and what needs to be done to improve. Now, second step in the marketing process is market research. You have primary research and secondary research, and we'll look at that in some depth. Third step is to establish marketing objectives. What things do you want to achieve? What goals do you want for the business? I increase market share, expand into other geographical markets, expand the product range, and so on. Or some of those or all of those. Right, the fourth step as part of these processes is to identify the various target markets and to target a specific market segment to maximize your marketing dollar, your marketing budget. Now, this is where it gets a little weird for students. The second last step is to develop marketing strategies. On the surface, it doesn't seem to make sense. Why are we looking at marketing strategies when we're doing processes? But remember, this is the marketing plan. And as part of a marketing team, they need to develop strategies that can be used to try and meet those objectives, those marketing objectives that you set out. All right, and we're looking at with marketing strategies, your 4 Ps or the additional 3 Ps and so on. Or maybe the global marketing strategies as well, if it's an international business or you're wishing to expand overseas. But the last process in marketing is the implementation, monitoring, and controlling of this marketing plan, these processes. Here you develop a financial forecast. You compare the actual results with what was planned initially. Have you met those targets? If so, what can you do next? If not, what you need to do to address that. And you will revise ongoing revision of the marketing strategy. So revision of the marketing strategy. We're almost there. So the final part of marketing, and for our school, the final part of the course. It's been a long 2 years for you, but mainly for me. We're looking at marketing strategies. We're taking a look at market segmentation, where you have that mass market that you've learned about already, and you're dividing that into the various market segments, like a pie graph. And you've got the standard market segments, or those thin slivers, which might be niche markets. And you're dividing them up and targeting specific market segment or market segments. We're also going to take a look at product and service differentiation and how to position better in the mind of the consumer, improve that ranking in terms of what the consumer wants, which brand they go for. And you can differentiate, distinguish based on better service, based on a better quality product, based on a lower cost product that you might want to produce. Now, the second strategy are products. Kids say often, that's operations, we're making a product. Sure, but if you make a poor quality or crappy product, no matter whether it's dirt cheap, whether you promote it very well, whether you have excellent place and distribution strategies, if it's a poor quality product, no one's going to buy it. No one's interested. So it's very important to make sure your good and or service is of high quality, or that it's of reasonable quality if it's going to be a low cost, low entry product. Branding and packaging are major aspects of that, and we'll take a look at that when we get to strategies. All right, the next strategy is price. And we look at two or three, I like three main different aspects of pricing. Again, the price at which you set your product can determine in the mind of the consumer whether it's an expensive type product that's luxurious that customers would want, like these fine YouTube clips, whether it's low quality and it's cheap and kind of nasty. So price is very important. You've got pricing methods, pricing strategies, and we also look at price and quality interaction. So the pricing methods, they are cost, market, and competition-based pricing. So if you're asked about pricing methods, mention those three. If you're asked about pricing strategies, talk about skimming or market skimming, price skimming, penetration pricing, loss leaders or loss leadership, and pricing points or price points. All right, and again, if you're asked about strategies, mention those four, not market or cost. Mention the four that we have there in the syllabus. Always go back to the syllabus, it's your Bible. The last part of price is the price and quality interaction. I mentioned that a little bit before, that if something is of low quality, it's usually matched up with something that's cheap. Something that's of high quality usually is something that's more expensive. Say usually because that's not always the case. All right, now we're taking a look at promotion. Now, kids always think marketing, advertising. That's all it's about. We already know from what we've seen, marketing has all of these 7 Ps plus global marketing, e-marketing, etc., etc. But promotion is not just about advertising either. It's a large chunk of it, but it's not just that. We look at the elements of the promotional mix, which include having a range of different promotion strategies. Advertising is one, it's important, but it's not the only one. We have personal selling, relationship marketing, sales promotion, publicity and public relations. We also look at the communications process as a form of promotion. And we look at opinion leaders and also the concept of word of mouth. Very important with social media and other outlets these days, like the Facebook and stuff. All right, we'll also take a look here at place and distribution as a strategy. And we look at, and place kids often think still, location of the shop. Not really. It's better to have distribution as your strategy. It doesn't sound so good, the 3 Ps and distribution. So we look at the distribution channels. Might be producer these days directly to consumer, as opposed to old school where we had producer to wholesaler to retailer to consumer. There's good and bad things about all these different distribution channels, but we'll look at the pros and the cons, and you might need to recommend one, select one depending on the question, or discuss a directive term. What are the pros and what are the cons? All right. Under place distribution, there's the channel choice. Do you want it everywhere? It's intensive, like selling Coke. You know, you've got it in the vending machines in lots of different shops. Or do you want an exclusive, like Tesla cars, where it's sold in very few locations? It creates a prestigious brand name, or in between selective. And this might sound funny as a strategy. We look at physical distribution issues and more how to overcome them. Which aspects of transport do you pick? Warehousing, you know, we use AWT, automatic warehousing technologies. Inventory, just in case or just in time. So physical distribution issues and transport, warehousing and inventory. That's also part of place. So none of this is really it's with the physical location really. All right, now, you've not heard of this too much, but we're going to look at the other 3 Ps, the service-based Ps. The people, the process, and the physical evidence. So we delve into why these are very important, and especially in relation to the service-based industries. We're almost there. We take a look at e-marketing, which is still part of the domestic marketing strategy, although it can be a bit global. And we take a look at the benefits of that. It allows small businesses to get as much coverage sometimes of larger businesses. And the last part, with all of these strategies in every different business function, is global, and in this case, global marketing. And we'll look at global branding. What's the benefits of that? How's that an effective strategy? Standardization versus customization. Do you use more standardization with your products or have a greater customization for each different geographical market, or a mixture of the two, as lots of businesses have. Global pricing, again, is it standard pricing across the globe, or depending on whether it's a developed, rich, or developing nation, do you have different pricing methods for each country? And we'll look at this concept of competitive positioning. All right, guys, thanks for listening and see you next time. Goodbye.